I never thought telling the truth would blow up my entire life. But here I am, 42 years old, sitting alone in the house we built together, while my husband and daughter are off living their best lives without me. All because I had the guts to say what everyone's thinking. Men these days just aren't what they used to be. I met Derek when we were both 18, fresh out of high school with our whole lives ahead of us. He was my first real boyfriend, my first everything. I'd been around the block a few times, but for him, I was it. His first and only. Maybe that should have been my first clue. What kind of man doesn't explore his options? But he was tall, good-looking, and had potential, so I locked it down. Fast forward 24 years and we've built what I thought was a perfect life. Good jobs, nice house in the suburbs, and our daughter Maddie, who just turned 18 and is heading to college soon. From the outside, we were that couple everyone envied. But behind closed doors, that's where the cracks were showing. Don't get me wrong, Derek isn't some total loser. He's tall, works out regularly, can fix things around the house, and knows his way around a car engine. He used to box and still does those cage fighting classes as a hobby. On paper, he checks most of the manly boxes. But the little things started adding up over the years, and, honestly, I couldn't just ignore them anymore. For starters, the man bakes. Not just the occasional birthday cake. I'm talking sourdough bread from scratch, fancy French pastries, the works. He's got more baking equipment than I do, and he actually uses those stupid little measuring spoons for everything. Who has time for that? And the cooking, making homemade pasta on a Tuesday night like we're on some Food Network show. It's excessive, and it's not what real men spend their time doing. Then there's the drinking thing. He just doesn't. Ever. Not a beer while watching the game, not a whiskey after a long day at work. Nothing. Meanwhile, I'm having my well-deserved glass of wine, and he's sitting there with sparkling water like some kind of health guru. It's awkward when we're out with friends and he's the only guy at the table not drinking. People notice these things. But the music, that's what really gets under my skin. My husband, this 6'2" former boxer, listens to Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. And that weird girl Charlie something. Willingly. He says it started because of Maddie playing it in the car, but I've caught him listening to Lover alone in his home office. It's not right, and he knows all the words too. Between us, it's like living with two teenage girls sometimes. Oh, and his car? This big tough guy drives a tiny little VW hatchback to work when he has a perfectly good truck and motorcycle in the garage. Says it's practical and good on gas. You should see him folding himself into that clown car every morning. It's embarrassing. Real men drive real cars, not those European sardine cans. I started making little comments here and there, just gentle nudges, really. Don't you want something stronger than that seltzer, babe? Or, maybe take the truck today. That little car makes you look like you're driving your daughter's hand-me-down. Just trying to help him see how others might perceive him. He used to laugh it off, but lately he's been getting all sensitive about it. Things really came to a head last month when we were out with friends at this bar downtown. Some drunk guy in his 20s bumped into Derek and spilled his drink. Instead of standing up for himself, my husband just smiled, helped the guy steady himself, and said, "No problem, man. Hope you get home safe." What? This drunk punk was half his size. My friends' husbands were right there watching. I could see the look they exchanged, that silent, dude, control your woman thing men do. Except in this case it was more like, dude, does your wife know you're a total doormat? I waited until we got home, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. What was that about? I asked him. That guy was a total jerk and you just let him walk all over you? He was drunk and half my size, Derek said, like that explained everything. What did you want me to do? Knock him out and go to jail? For what? My ego? I told him right then. I miss the days when men were men. When they stood up for themselves and their women. When they didn't let people disrespect them. When they drove proper cars and listened to normal music and didn't spend their weekends making cupcakes with sprinkles on top. A real man would change, I told him. A real man would care how his wife feels. That's when something changed in his eyes. Something I'd never seen before in 24 years of marriage. He got real quiet, the kind of quiet that feels dangerous, you know? Then he just said, "I'm done," and walked upstairs to the guest room. I thought he just needed to cool off. I had no idea everything was about to fall apart. Over the next few weeks, the comments just kept slipping out. I couldn't help it. It was like once I started noticing all these things, I couldn't stop seeing them. The way he'd giggle with Maddie over stupid TikTok videos. How he'd rather stream some baking championship show than watch sports. The little shopping bags from bath stores with lotions and fancy soaps. It's like living with a teenage girl, I said once, when he and Maddie were dancing around the kitchen to that cruel summer song for the millionth time. Mom, stop, Maddie snapped at me. Dad's just having fun. Why do you have to ruin everything? That hurt, coming from my own daughter. When did she become his defender? I carried her for 9 months, went through 19 hours of labor, raised her while working full-time, and now she was taking his side? All because I wanted her father to act like a grown man? I didn't realize how bad things had gotten until I came home from work early one afternoon and found Derek packing a suitcase. "What are you doing?" I asked, my stomach dropping. "I'm leaving," he said, not even looking up. "I found an apartment. I can't do this anymore, Brenda." "Do what? Be married? Be a father? Be a man?" The words just flew out of my mouth. He finally looked at me then, and I barely recognized him. Not because he looked different, but because I'd never seen that expression on his face before. It wasn't anger or sadness, it was just, done. "I am a man," he said quietly. "I've always been a man. I box, I fix cars, I provide for this family. I've never cheated, never laid a hand on you, never missed a mortgage payment, but that's not enough for you, is it? Because I also bake. I listen to pop music. I avoid pointless fights. I drive an efficient car. These things don't make me less of a man, they make me a complete person. And I'm done apologizing for it." "So you're just walking out on your family? That's your solution?" I was screaming now, panic rising in my chest. "Maddie's 18, she knows where to find me. And you," he paused, zipping up his suitcase. "You don't want me. You want some stereotype that doesn't exist. I can't be that for you." And just like that, he left. Walked out the door with one suitcase like our 24 years together meant nothing. I was in shock. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was supposed to see I was right, man up and change, not walk away. I called him that night, ready to negotiate. "We can go to therapy," I offered. "Both of us, to work through our issues." "My only issue is that my wife doesn't accept me for who I am," he said. "Are you going to therapy to work on that?" I was speechless. The audacity. "I'm willing to go to therapy, to help you understand what I need in a husband," I managed. He actually laughed. "Goodbye, Brenda," and hung up. The worst part came 3 days later when Maddie announced she was going to stay with her dad on weekends. "His apartment is closer to my work anyway," she said, not meeting my eyes. "And he needs help setting up. So you're choosing him?" I couldn't believe this betrayal. "After everything I've done for you?" "I'm not choosing anyone, Mom, but Dad's alone right now, and you're you. You've always been tough. He needs the support more." I wanted to scream that I needed support too, that my husband had just abandoned me, but the words stuck in my throat. How had I become the villain in my own home? The weeks that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and, though I hate to admit it, fear. Suddenly I was alone in our 4-bedroom house, rattling around like a pea in a can. Friends called less. Maddie texted instead of visiting. Derek communicated only through email, cold and formal messages about bills and logistics. I tried dating apps, thinking I'd show him what a real man looks like, but the men I matched with were either crude meatheads or soft, sensitive types worse than Derek. One guy actually told me I seemed intense after I explained what had happened with my marriage. Intense? For having standards? I deleted the apps after 2 disastrous dates. Meanwhile, through Maddie's reluctant updates and social media, I caught glimpses of Derek's new life. He joined a boxing gym closer to his apartment. He was taking Maddie to concerts. He'd even started some cooking class where everyone brings dishes from their heritage. "Dad seems really happy," Maddie mentioned one night when she stopped by to pick up more clothes. The words felt like a slap. "Well, good for him," I snapped. "Must be nice to abandon your family and responsibilities and just do whatever makes you happy." Maddie looked at me with an expression that reminded me so much of her father. "He didn't abandon us, Mom. He left you. There's a difference." And maybe he's happy because for the first time in years, nobody's criticizing everything he does. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but something stopped me. A tiny voice somewhere deep inside whispered, "What if she's right?" 3 months after Derek left, I ran into Maria from my old college dorm at the grocery store. We weren't close anymore, but we followed each other on Facebook and exchanged birthday wishes each year. The standard acquaintanceship. "I heard about you and Derek," she said, her cart blocking mine in the cereal aisle. "Such a shame, you two were always the couple everyone thought would make it." "Yeah, well, people change," I said, trying to maneuver around her. "He's not the man I married." Maria tilted her head, studying me with uncomfortable intensity. "That's interesting. I just had coffee with him last week. My husband and I ran into him at that new place downtown. He seems exactly like the Derek I remember from college. Kind, funny, confident in who he is." My stomach clenched. "You had coffee with my husband?" "Ex-husband, from what I understand. The divorce papers are filed, right?" She had the decency to look a little embarrassed. "Anyway, it wasn't planned. We just bumped into each other. He was with some woman from his cooking class." "He was with someone?" The cereal box I was holding suddenly felt very heavy. "Just a friend, I think, but they seemed close." Maria checked her watch. "I should get going. Good to see you, Brenda." As she walked away, I stood frozen in the cereal aisle, a box of Cheerios clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Derek was moving on, making new friends, taking classes, dating, maybe, building a whole life without me. And here I was, still stuck in the anger phase, still blaming him for everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Maddie had said, about Derek being happy because no one was criticizing him. Was that really how he had felt all these years? Had my helpful suggestions actually been constant criticism? I'd only wanted him to be his best self. Was that so wrong? But as dawn broke, an uncomfortable thought formed. What if his best self was exactly who he already was? A man confident enough to bake bread and listen to Taylor Swift without worrying what others thought. A man wise enough to walk away from pointless confrontations. A man secure enough in his masculinity that he didn't need to prove it to anyone. And what did that make me? A woman so insecure in her own choices that she needed to control her husband's? A woman who valued perception over authenticity? A woman now sitting alone in an empty house while her family moved on without her? 6 months after Derek left, the divorce was final. He was fair in the settlement. More than fair, according to my lawyer. We sold the house and split the proceeds. He didn't fight me on anything material. "I just want this to be over," he told the mediator. Not angry, just finished. The final blow came when Maddie announced she was moving in with her dad permanently. His new apartment was in a 2-bedroom building, with a unit that had just opened up on the same floor. "It makes more sense," she explained, avoiding my eyes. "I'll be closer to school, and Dad needs someone. You've always been so independent, Mom." Independent. Was that what people saw when they looked at me? Not strong or confident, but isolated? When had independent become a euphemism for alone? I moved into a condo closer to work, half the size of our family home, but still too big for just me. I arranged my furniture, hung my pictures, and tried to create a space that felt like home. But something was missing. And it wasn't just Derek and Maddie. Then came the day I ran into them at the farmer's market. I'd gone on a whim, thinking fresh air might do me good. And there they were, Derek, Maddie, and a woman I didn't recognize, laughing together at a bakery stall. They hadn't seen me yet. I could have slipped away, avoided the whole awkward encounter. But I couldn't move, transfixed by the scene before me. Derek looked different. Not physically, he was still tall, still fit, still handsome in that understated way that had attracted me 24 years ago. But there was a lightness to him I hadn't seen in years. He was smiling, really smiling, the kind that reaches your eyes. And Maddie, my heart clenched at how happy she looked. So animated as she pointed at different pastries. The woman with them was nothing special, average height, average build, casual clothes. But the way she looked at Derek and Maddie with genuine interest and affection made something twist inside me. Before I could decide whether to approach or retreat, Maddie spotted me. Her smile faltered for just a moment before she nudged her father. Derek turned, saw me, and his expression shifted to something carefully neutral. Mom, what are you doing here? Maddie called, waving me over. There was nothing to do but join them. Just picking up some things, I said, wishing I'd worn something nicer than yoga pants and an old sweater. Hi, Derek. Brenda, he nodded. Then, remembering his manners, he gestured to the woman beside him. This is Julia. Julia, this is Maddie's mom, Brenda. It's nice to meet you, Julia said, offering her hand. Her grip was firm, her smile genuine. I've heard so much about you. I bet you have, I thought bitterly, but forced a smile. All good things, I hope. An awkward silence fell. Derek cleared his throat. Julia and I met at that cooking class I started taking. She's a fantastic baker. I'm learning from him, actually, Julia laughed. Your ex-husband is something of a star in our class. His sourdough is legendary. Is it? I said, hating how strained my voice sounded. He always did enjoy his little hobbies. Maddie shot me a warning look, but Derek just smiled. Not the tight, forced smile I was used to seeing in our final years together, but a relaxed one. Actually, I'm thinking of turning this hobby into something more, he said. Julia's helping me put together a business plan for a small bakery cafe. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood place specializing in artisanal bread and pastries. Dad's going to quit his job and everything, Maddie chimed in, her pride evident. He's already talked to the bank about a loan. I stared at them, trying to process this information. Derek, my practical, play-it-safe Derek, was quitting his stable career to open a bakery. With this woman's help? And Maddie knew about it before me? Well, I managed. That sounds risky. Life's too short not to take risks for the things that make you happy, Derek said simply. I think I finally understand that. His words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. I wanted to say something cutting, something that would puncture this bubble of contentment they'd created without me. But looking at the three of them, my ex-husband, my daughter, and this woman who'd stepped into the space I left behind, the fight suddenly drained out of me. I should go? I murmured. Good luck with the bakery. I turned and walked away before they could respond, tears blurring my vision. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He was supposed to fall apart without me, realize what he'd lost, come crawling back. Instead, he was thriving, reinventing himself, taking chances, surrounded by people who supported him exactly as he was. And here I was, alone with my rigid expectations and outdated ideals, watching from the sidelines as life went on without me. As I drove home to my empty condo, a memory surfaced from our early days together. Derek and I, barely 20, dancing in the kitchen of our first apartment to some cheesy 90s song. Both of us laughing, neither caring how we looked or what anyone would think. When had I stopped dancing? When had I started caring so much about appearances, about fitting into some arbitrary mold of what men and women should be? The truth hit me with devastating clarity. I hadn't lost Derek because he wasn't man enough. I'd lost him because I wasn't secure enough to love him for who he really was. By the time I parked my car, another realization had formed. Maybe the problem hadn't been Derek all along. Maybe it had been me. My insecurities, my judgments, my need to control. But even as this thought took shape, I pushed it away. It was easier to blame him, to blame society, to blame anyone but myself. It's not fair, I whispered to my empty condo. I just wanted what everyone wants, a real man, a normal life. But as my words echoed in the silent space, they sounded hollow even to my own ears. Because the truth was, I'd had a real man. A man secure enough to be himself, to enjoy the things he enjoyed without worrying about gender stereotypes. A man kind enough to avoid unnecessary conflicts, wise enough to choose his battles. A man strong enough to walk away when he wasn't valued. And I'd thrown it all away because he didn't fit some outdated idea of masculinity I'd clung to. A year after our divorce, I received an invitation to the grand opening of Derek's Daily Bread, his new bakery cafe. The invitation wasn't from Derek. It was from Maddie, who'd added a personal note. I think it would mean a lot to Dad if you came. He's really proud of this place. I almost threw it away. What was the point in torturing myself, watching Derek succeed in his new life with his new girlfriend? But curiosity, and if I'm honest, a lingering hope of reconnection, won out. The bakery was everything I would have mocked before. Cozy, artisanal, with hand-painted signs and potted herbs in the windows. But seeing Derek behind the counter, flour on his apron, explaining the difference between sourdough styles to an interested customer, I couldn't find it in me to be critical. He looked completely in his element, confident and content in a way I'd rarely seen during our marriage. Maddie spotted me first, rushing over to give me an awkward hug. "You came. Dad will be so happy." I doubted that, but forced a smile. "The place looks nice. He did well." "He did amazing," Maddie corrected. "There was a write-up in the local paper last week, and they've been slammed ever since. Julia's helping with the business side, until Dad gets the hang of it." As if summoned by her name, Julia appeared beside Maddie, offering me a cup of coffee. "Brenda, so glad you could make it. Derek's been too busy to break away, but I know he'll want to say hello." I took the coffee, searching her face for smugness or triumph, but found only genuine warmth. It was infuriating how difficult it was to dislike her. Eventually, Derek made his way over, wiping his hands on his apron. "Brenda, thanks for coming." His smile was polite, a little reserved but not cold. "Congratulations," I said, gesturing around the busy shop. "This is impressive." "Thanks, it's been a lot of work, but it feels right." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I never would have had the courage to do this if things hadn't changed. If I hadn't driven you away," he meant. The unspoken words hung between us. "You seem happy," I offered, and was surprised to find I meant it. "I am," he said simply. "I hope you are too." But I wasn't. That was the brutal truth I couldn't escape as I watched my ex-husband in his new life. While he had blossomed after our separation, I had withered. My rigid ideas about who he should be had cost me everything: my marriage, my relationship with my daughter, and ultimately, my own happiness. As I left the bakery, the weight of my mistakes pressed down on me. I had pushed away a good man because he didn't conform to some arbitrary standard of masculinity. I had valued appearances over authenticity, control over connection. And now I was paying the price, alone, isolated, watching from a distance as the family I once had moved forward without me. The real tragedy wasn't that Derek wasn't man enough. It was that I wasn't woman enough to appreciate the man he truly was.